When taking a look at Rect Database's top 5 DeFi hacks, they all happen to be interoperability projects. We see Polygon Network, $602 million hack, Wormhole, over $300 million hack, BoyX High Speed, $140 million hack. Joining us now to discuss is Sergey Gorbunov, CEO and co-founder of Axelar, the latest blockchain unicorn in the interoperability space. Good morning, Sergey. Thanks for joining us. So just off the bat, is it a coincidence that the top DeFi hacks are interoperability exploits? Is interoperability too buggy for prime time?
Well, I think it's important to understand that I think with any on-chain activity there are risks, right? And it's no different than DeFi in the early days, where we saw a lot of attacks and a lot of vulnerabilities being exploited in the space. I think interoperability on its own is still in the early days, and it is a complicated technology. So I think it's not a surprise that we're seeing some of the attacks. I think that being said, it is a solvable problem. You just have to think of it very carefully and approach it in a thoughtful way, as we're doing at Axelar.
All right, and you guys have a big announcement. You're a universal blockchain interoperability network, and you just raised $35 million. Tell us a bit about that and where you hope to allocate the funds.
Yeah, so I think we've seen a lot of demand for interoperability over the last year, right? And I think that's going to continue to grow as the space grows. And so the funds are going to be used to continue scaling the project, continue supporting more integrations, building out the team, and of course, paying attention to the security, right, of all the interoperability protocols and everything that we're building. So yeah, pretty excited to continue working with the developers and scaling this uniform interoperability stack that we're building.
So Sergey, as Christine has brought up, these big exploits happen on DeFi, and my question about stablecoins is this: are they making things unstable rather than stable, or is it vice versa? What can be done essentially to protect things, to prevent these kind of iron and titan situations that we had, and all the likes, where you have exploits, you have all sorts of market things click in that create instability in the marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to exploits and things like that, I think you have to look at what has worked well in the space, right? And I think the only things that have worked well to achieve strong security and robustness of any system or solution is achieving strong decentralization, right? And achieving simple and uniform designs, okay? And that's certainly kind of direction that we took at Axelar, which is making sure that whatever we're building is universal, and at the same time, it's decentralized at the core. The more you can open the system, the more you can allow external parties to participate in it, modify its rules where needed, add to the security of the overall solution, the better you end up. And that's what we have seen over and over in the space. And, that's the way that I think about it as well.
One of the controversies around bailing out the wormhole exploit situation was that it was viewed as a form of bailing out Solana, and that it ultimately means that it's really more centralized than people are giving it credit for. Do you think that's the case? Do you think that you have these large venture capitalists who are coming in to protect their investments by bailing out certain platforms when it's needed, and that's making things more centralized rather than decentralized?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, I think no matter what, I think you have to be thoughtful about these things and thoughtful about security, right? Whether or not your approach is to rely on a centralized party or on a decentralized protocol and governance, I think the key is to prepare and think about these things in advance before they happen, right? Same thing as in DeFi. Kind of before you ship in any product, you better do your homework and do the audits, right? And allow more eyes to look at it. And same thing with interoperability. Whenever you're shipping something, you have to be thoughtful about it. You have to do audits. You have to think, what are the insurance or what are the protocols you can put on chain or off chain, to protect against those types of vulnerabilities. And it's up to individual projects to decide whether or not they have a centralized, fallback mechanism or decentralized, right? Then like I said earlier, I think, decentralized security and decentralized approaches work the best in the industry so far.
So Sergey, considering all those factors you just mentioned, how does Axelar differentiate itself from other interoperability projects such as Polkadot, Cosmos?
Yeah, so on the very high level, Axelar is a universal overlaid network that securely connects applications, users, assets to deliver Web3 interoperability, right? And what we have designed is really a universal platform that allows to connect very different ecosystems that speak different consensus rules, different software stacks, and connect them in a uniform way, which is one of the key pieces, right? By allowing uniform connectivity and uniform routing across the networks, we can, minimize the attack surface. We can minimize, any issues that could come up at the protocol layer. At the same time, allowing it to scale and support more and more ecosystems down the line. And another key point, whenever you're talking about interoperability, is to being able to allow developers and users to interact across different ecosystems in an easy way, which today is not really the case. Whenever we're talking about, a lot of the solutions, we're talking about very painful user experience, which also has to be solved if we were to deliver interoperability, and that's something we're focused on Axelar as well.
Yeah, Sergey, of course, everyone wants to believe that their projects are useful for every industry out there, but are there any specific industries that you are focusing on in terms of marketing and working with to make it to adopt it?
Yeah, I mean, early days, definitely DeFi is where we're seeing a lot of demand from, right? So the basic problem is that any DeFi or any application that's built on top of a single blockchain right now lives in an isolated world, right? And so, but it wants to distribute its usefulness or its assets to all the other blockchain ecosystems, right? And so that's where we're seeing a lot of demand, and I think we're going to continue seeing over the next year is allowing composition and allowing distribution of applications that are built on one blockchain to communicate and compose with all the other blockchain ecosystems. And it is a big use case. It is allowing everybody to tap into shared liquidity, right? Which is currently is not the case. If you living on Solana, you're isolated and you're living with the liquidity that's mostly kind of resides on Solana, which we want to solve.